It is officially the off season, and the off season doesn't come without controversy. I really, really want to talk about this. We bit our tongue. We held off on really discussing Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz during the year because we really wanted to wait and see, what information was out there, what was, left to come out.
Yep.
So they've both been indicted for an alleged illegal bribery and pitch rigging scheme. Basically, their charges are wire fraud conspiracy, honest services wire fraud conspiracy, conspiracy to interfere with the sporting contest by bribery, and money laundering conspiracy. Basically, if we really want to talk about what they did, Clase, he's alleged to have begun this whole scheme in May 2023, and he would supply information about pitch types and pitch speeds for other people to then bet on individual pitches during the game. Ortiz joined this past June in 2025, and he rigged specific pitches to be a ball as opposed to a strike. And I think the funniest thing to come out of it was he threw a pitch as a ball on purpose, but the batter still decided to swing at a pitch bouncing in front of the plate.
You think the batter told his buddy first pitch guaranteed strike, or
I don't know. I think the going theory that it's Andy Pajes of the Dodgers, and that he just decided to swing freely at a pitch bouncing in front of the plate.
I saw one though. Was it with Volpe where one of them threw a pitch and Volpe swung at it? He got mad and you hear him yell.
Like, this is very serious stuff, but could you imagine being the guy who bet on that? And you're like, this is a lock. Like, he's going to roll it to the plate. And
you're telling all your friends and family.
And the guy still swings.
There's one specific one where, like I said, the guy was supposed to throw a ball, the first pitch of the second inning on June 15th, 2025. That's Luis Ortiz. And the fact that we have specifics down to the pitch of the game, like Ortiz was paid $5,000 to throw that ball on purpose.
Yeah, man, this is the part of this story that I don't want to say isn't true, but it just doesn't add up to me, especially when we start talking about Clase. The fact that the amounts were, and listen, money is money. In relatively, like, to us listening, $5,000, $7,000, $12,000 is a lot of money. But when you're on a multi-million-dollar contract, to risk it all, like your MLB career in your salary, let alone the jail time that they face, all for money that it isn't even an average person's salary, is just the part of the story that doesn't add up to me. I'm not saying that I don't believe it. I just don't know why they would risk it for that little.
So what makes me kind of question how deep this goes, and this might be kind of recency bias, in my mind with everything going on in the NBA involved with the mafia and that whole gambling ring. Like, we don't know for certain if this has any connections to another, organized crime syndicate, whether it's in the Dominican Republic or the U.S., that is, in a way, forcing them to do it. Like, we don't know how deep that goes. I don't want to defend them, but that, to me, is one of the only ways that money makes sense. Like, that's their cut, like their reward for, being good.
Yeah, I could, just because otherwise, like, especially, again, Clase, like, top closer in the game at the time, right. What's the point?
And, Clase got a cut from that $5,000 for facilitating Luis Ortiz to go do that. The scheme produced about $400,000 to $450,000 total in fraudulent bet winnings.
Again,
the numbers don't add up.
That's just not even, Emmanuel Clase contract.
Now, while you look that up, Clase was put on leave on July 28th, Ortiz on July 3rd, paid leave at that, but that's because of the union and their rules.
Yeah, he makes $4 million a year.
That's a lot different than $400,000.
Yeah, not that, obviously there's MLB contracts that are way more than that, but you're, quarters on your dollar there.
Yeah. Now, if they're convicted, they could face up to 65 years in prison each. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're going to get 65 years, but on the highest end, if everything, hits and they do consecutive sentencing and all that, 65 years. That's an insane, amount of time to give up for what amounts to a few $1,000s, not even a few $100,000 for them when they're making, millions. So Luis Ortiz was arrested in Boston. Clase is not in custody. Apparently, he's still in the Dominican Republic, claiming he's innocent. One of the things Major League Baseball did to combat this, which, I'm curious what you guys think, they put a $200 limit on all pitch-specific wagers. And I just think it's a little grimy that, one, they're still running with these specific bets, and two, that they're even allowed to limit what people can bet. Like, who says that they're allowed to do that? What control do they have over, what you and I can put on a bet? Control your own players, keep your own house in line. Why are you affecting everybody else?
If I had to guess, there is likely some version of the MLB and regulators determining this, not just baseball, and the regulators can enforce this on the books. I don't think it's just the MLB specifically.
Right.
I think it's these gaming commissions and regulators that are put in place to kind of make betting safer in general. Usually it's more involved on kind of the back end, making sure that the book isn't cheating, and also making sure that anybody who has, a gambling addiction or is trying to exclude isn't still wagering. But this would fall into one of those rigged gaming things, right? If you alleged that a casino was rigging a game, you would go through a gaming commission. I would imagine this is the same exact thing here. So I don't think it's specifically Major League Baseball, although they made the announcement likely in unison with the regulators. That way it could reach a broader audience.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own thoughts on these gaming companies because I think it should be very illegal to limit wagers on bets, especially for somebody who's winning. I think, to me, that's very scummy. I know you.
I mean, here's my counterpoint. It's their business.
Yeah.
So, if you're losing money on your business, you wouldn't just keep doing it.
No, but I mean,
if I had a cookie selling business and I was selling cookies for $5, and then all of a sudden it cost me $10 to make you cookies, I'm not going to just keep selling them for $5 to you.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're getting, from John cookies at for $0.
No, I get it. It's all a money making business.
I just don't like it in general because I feel like if you're betting on sports at all, even with these like pitch by pitch things, you're opening it up to more stuff like this happening.
Well,
and stuff.
These sports where individual players can dictate the outcomes of their props are. This isn't the last time we're going to see it. I mean, the NBA situation happened first, and unders are the easiest to cash in the NBA. If you wanted to rig NBA unders, like Steph Curry under 3-pointers on a random regular season game versus the Pelicans, hey, guess what? Steph's not going to do that night. Shoot threes. Can't make them if they don't go in. Or if you don't shoot them.
Yeah.
My question is more of this going on that's just slipping through. It's just,
well, this is why, I mentioned it as a joke, but like the Andy Pages swing, any batter could make sure the first pitch is a swing and miss as well.
Absolutely,
it's not just a pitcher that has the ability to dictate the outcome. There, I could swing at a ball that rolls to the plate.
So this leads me to ask the question: how could Major League Baseball have prevented something like this from happening?
There's really no way. I mean,
like, was this
look at what the penalty is? 65 years in prison. Like, I don't think again, we'll see if what penalty is laid out here, but it's immediate suspension from the league, taking away their job, and the penalty is almost your whole life in jail. I don't know what more MLB is supposed to do to enforce it. I think that it's a slippery slope, and I think we certainly could enter a point where these markets just aren't available on betting sites anymore. You know, you could still bet on who wins, the spread, the over under, like the more popular bets and things that require an entire team. And sure, like play, but
I mean,
you know,
home runs and hits, you can't really control. You still got to put the bat on the ball and hit it
right,
properly.
right. I think some of these player markets, and they're a little abstract. Like everything makes some money, but I don't think eliminating these books or these bets would put any of these books out of business. I don't think they're seeing enough action on these. And again, you talk about the books, they're getting screwed here.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like, these sports betting, casinos or whatever could be slimy all they want. But the reason it's a problem is because they were the ones getting screwed. Not that they were doing the screwing. It's because it was rigged against them. Like
Yeah.
they're the people who almost have the most to be upset about because, if we all knew first pitch of the World Series is going to be a ball and we all placed our bet on FanDuel and won, FanDuel's the big loser there.
It's just funny how this shook out because who would have thought that rigging individual like pitches, literally the first pitch is a ball, and then every other pitch in the at bat carries on like normal. There's a lot of nuance to it. So how does this stack up to past scandals we've had? You had the Pete Rose, the Black Sox, the Shohei Ohtani, Ippei Mizuhara.
Yeah, you think Class A blames it on his interpreter?
I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, this is worse than Pete Rose. Pete Rose was betting on his team to win. I mean, these guys were purposely throwing balls. Like they were betting negative things to happen and putting their team at a disadvantage. Pete Rose was still trying to win the game, if not even more.
It's funny how if this timeline adds up, Clase was the best reliever in baseball while also throwing, literally throwing pitches.
Yeah.
He was doing that and still being the greatest closer in the game.
Yeah. I think it's pretty bad, to be honest.
So, should players in general be allowed to bet
On
anything? Should they?
Should Aaron Judge be allowed to bet on the Giants this weekend?
Right. Or should we just?
Oh yeah.
Or should professional athletes, have to kind of refrain from betting in general because they also could be, insider trading with that. Judge is close friends with Jackson Dart. Hey, this is our game plan. We're going to feed Tyron Tracy really heavy this week, bet the over on the yards.
Yeah, I mean,
it just feels like the
so could Jackson Dart's neighbor.
Right, true.
So I think the area where that gets like the slimiest is like, hey, Justin Jefferson, who went to LSU, Garrett Nussmeier is talking to you. Like, I think like the college connection of like the impressionable college kids is where it gets worst. I don't really think like the adult cross sport pro athletes are really that big of an issue. I also don't really, I've never seen any athletes that are at least like posting these mega bets that they're placing.
At least not current ones, but I remember, I think it was Jameson Williams got caught logging into like DraftKings.
Well, you're not allowed to bet on the team
site. He was in the parking lot, getting ready to leave the training facility, and he logged in like in his car and got suspended that way because I think it was 2 or 3 years ago we had like 4 or 5 guys in the league get suspended for gambling. Now, I believe none of it was on football, but it was all at the facility.
The only person who got suspended for gambling on football was Calvin Ridley. But he was betting on the Falcons to win when he was injured and not playing. So that
he was betting on his team to lose.
No, he wasn't. He was betting on them to win, even though he wasn't playing. If he had been betting on them to lose, I think it would have been much worse.
I think it was like a Falcons Jaguars game, or like he parlayed it with the Jag. I feel like the Jag.
I think it was like a parlay in the game that it was like Falcons overs and them to win.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that. I mean, he was suspended for a season?
Yeah.
So if you guys were Clase and Ortiz's lawyers, what type of defense would you try to mount? Like, how do you
his translator? I mean, I'm just if I was their lawyers, I would try and find, a fall guy, like whether it's make up some Dominican mafia that either does or doesn't exist, or claim a translator did it. I mean, I
I
don't
mean, you
like.
could
I've
also
watched
just
that
say, I mean,
defense
it's a
work.
pitch and just be kind of claim that
It
it
slipped.
was just a pitch. It slipped. It was, it wasn't intentional.
But I mean, when there's not one pitch, it's
I
multiple
mean,
pitches. I
my
don't know.
guess
But-
is
but
if these guys
obviously-
have been indicted, there's like
but if they
enough of a
indicted,
paper
yeah.
trail. Like,
Right.
That's-
So, like, if you're the defense attorney, how, like, what would you build your defense around? Would you build it around, like, what I said earlier about how,
I mean, that could just
Mafia
what you
made me
said
do
could be
it?
the truth. So if that's like the actual truth, then that's
right?
1,000% what I'd be saying. If
Like,
it wasn't,
or
I
like,
would just
I
I
think
would
I
just
saw-
try and claim misunderstanding through like language barrier.
So and I saw a tweet earlier. I don't know how accurate it is. I was trying to verify it and I couldn't because a lot of the information that's come from the DR, and we see that a lot with free agency signings and trades, where certain things are said that gets lost in translation. I saw one thing that said Class A is claiming that a lot of the text messages that he's received regarding this and the money is on rooster fighting and not on throwing pitches. So I wonder.
that would be a crazy. That would be insane.
So again, I don't know if that's an accurate statement. I did see that on Twitter from somebody who claims to be a reporter out of the DR. So take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying it's a fact, but it is something that is now out there that.
Do you think the courts should lay the hammer on these guys to kind of set a precedent of like this won't be tolerated? I understand it's people's lives. I'm just saying, like, maybe not. Do you think that they should? Do you think that they will?
I think they will, because somebody needs to be made an example out of. And I know we all.
That's why I feel like it's going to go. I think
right. We knew that it wasn't going to be Ohtani with everything going on there, and how there's a lot of conspiracies surrounding it.
I'm just saying the Ohtani thing was investigated. I mean, the FBI looked into it. They found him innocent. And I mean, the FBI has no problem putting. They have no problem putting away wealthy people. Like, they have no problem.
Yes, but there's a lot of curiosity surrounding that man. But this isn't about that guy. This is about Ortiz and Class A, who I do think will have the book thrown at them. I think Ortiz will get off a lot easier than Class A. Ortiz did it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think Ortiz is also going to just absolutely snitch on Class A.
As he should. I'm not going to say as he should, because I don't,
I mean,
snitches.
I mean, listen, if I was doing it for 2 weeks and somebody else roped me in that was doing it for 2 years, and
then we get pinched
it's my prison sentence against theirs.
Yeah,
see you later.
You're cutting the deal.
There's no shot Ortiz is going to get that 65 years. I'm sure. I think both will be banned for life from baseball. I think that's a given.
Yeah, that's already. I think even if they're found not guilty, they're getting
banned. Well,
they're just getting blackballed.
Cheated to win a World Series, though, they'd still be playing.
What was that, John?
I said if they cheated to win a World Series, they'd still be in baseball.
You got that right. One day we'll find out what really was going on with that. But
can't bet.
But I think that they'll both be, banned for life, and I think now what the commissioner's office stance is for life now means the life of the player and not the life of the sport, which is what previous interpreters had said. So when they're dead, they'll be removed from the lifetime list. Now, neither is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
So we're not really losing anything that way. But it's a shame because Class A was legitimately great.
He was going to get paid.
He was due to be a free agent in a few years.
Well, this is what I'm talking about, though.
This is why it's weird, because it's like, I mean, if the DR stuff was coming out was true and stuff, and maybe they're found not guilty, do they still get banned?
I'd say no.
Or just a suspension.
I don't.
Here's
back in. I think it depends at what all comes out, man. If it comes out that somebody in like obviously this is like some like Sopranos, Godfather movie type vibes, but like if it comes out that like one of their family members was like kidnapped and abducted and they were like, if you don't throw a ball, like they're getting whacked. Like I don't like if it comes out like some definitive like proof of that, or like that's what happened, then like I don't know, man.
I
One
don't
ball in the seventh inning is worth more than like somebody in my family's life to the MLB.
Of course not, but I do think
It'd
that
be real scummy if that. I'm just saying, if that came
Yeah.
out and was like the accepted truth, and the MLB was like, "Sorry guys, should have let it happen."
it's just hard because MLB has a pretty black and white stance when it comes to this. And
Yeah, I mean, just
I just feel like they
obviously-
get a public, they
Right,
get a
so,
lot
like-
of public pressure from that. I would assume.
even doing so, it might have been for the right reasons. You did, compromise the integrity of the sport.
I
So,
just
like,
think, like we gotta have some grace if we're
Right.
at the point where it's like some mafia movie.
I think there should be, but just from what we know about how they handle these things, they're very black and white when it comes to betting on baseball.
I mean, to be fair, like let's be honest, they probably were just in it to get money for themselves, similar to Jonte Porter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Class A needed an extra $5,000 for. He can advance on his next week's
Well,
salary
you said he was doing this for over how many years?
since 2023, and he was
So,
making.
I mean, that adds up. I mean,
I
if
mean,
you're-
listen, and I don't know him at all, Class A, but there's just some people, man, you could give them every opportunity, every chance in the world, and they will still fall into like this kind of like hustler, rule bending behavior. Like no matter what you give them. And I don't know Class A like whatsoever. I just know people that like that's just where they are. And you can't take that out of people sometimes. And even though you're a millionaire, you'll rob somebody for $20. Like like there's just people out there that like that's
Greedy.
how they're built.
very,
Not
very
even just
greedy.
greedy, I think just like always in survival and collect mode.
Yeah, it's a shame what's going on, and I find it interesting how Ortiz is in custody and Class A is, still in the DR. He hasn't been arrested yet, which is interesting because I'm sure we could just arrest him even in the DR. Extradite him if we had to. It wouldn't be
They're
that
probably
difficult.
keeping him there and letting Ortiz spill his guts.
Yeah, it's probably. Outside of when or if Class A gets arrested, I'm not sure we'll hear much about this, for a while.
Yeah.
Although the Ipe Mizuhara stuff moved fairly quickly, but I believe he took a plea deal.
Oh yeah.
I wonder why that.
that case moved along real quick.
So I wonder if this is another case of that, because maybe it's not just those two involved. It could be other players. I'm not going to name names or give any indications on who because I don't have any, idea. But I would be shocked if it was just those two doing something connected or separate. It just
I mean,
It's
who
such a
knows?
widespread
Aaron
problem.
Boone could be involved. Satire.
yeah. Aaron Boone is not involved that we know of. Wink, wink.
Stop.
Kidding.
But
But-
if him
Better
and
cut
Brian
this out.
Cashman
Better
had
cut
to be
this out.
removed,
I mean, he's conveniently not at the general managers meetings. Curious connections, maybe.
I-
Finding Pepe Sylvia. I mean, you got to figure it out.
Hey, these are just things to note. Was
So-
Orion Kirkring actually making an accident when he threw it home?
That poor guy. So my last question on this before we kind of move on, has Major League Baseball and sports in general gone too far with their overall connection and,
Yes.
pushing of gambling?
Yes. Absolutely. 100%. Yes.
You don't have to
That's
answer
my
this if
opinion.
you don't want to, Dylan.
I think it's at a fair amount. I don't think that it's a problem where
I
it's
think it's a
currently at.
No, you don't think that ESPN having, at least at one point, having had their own book with the inside information
They
they
still
get?
have their own book till December 1st. And, you know, not as somebody who's definitively tapped in, but I could tell you the people from ESPN were not very involved with ESPN Bet. In
They just
fact,
took it for the name.
all they did was collect. I don't know if the numbers are out there. A lot of money every year for the ESPN brand and imaging to be given, and they plastered Stephen A. on everything as they do, and for some reason they made it just they get final say on everything, but didn't care about anything. So that's how the process worked for them. So no, I don't think that ESPN Bet had a leg up on FanDuel or DraftKings when it came to their traders getting information.
But so you think that we're at a good spot where it's, not over the top with the involvement?
I just think like a lot of things in life, you're going to hear about the extremes and you're not going to hear about the middle ground. I think like a fine example of that would be like alcohol. You get all the commercials and stuff for Miller Lite, Bud Light, and stuff. Anybody who gets into a drunk driving incident on their way home from a Super Bowl watch party, did the NFL go too far promoting beer?
All right, I see where you're coming from.
But it's the fact, though. I mean, gambling and betting is banned in your sport. It's you have
I would
rules and stuff
imagine.
around
I would
it.
imagine Aaron Judge can't show up
Yeah.
to the game hammered either.
Yeah, but he's not going to get banned. I don't think it's not a lifetime ban from baseball.
I got to be honest. If Aaron Judge showed up to every game hammered, I think he'd get banned.
I mean, Marcelo Zuna of the Braves know his
back in
story.
the 80s and 90s, you had a player doing like drinking and doing a lot worse before.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And during games, so it's like
I think
no hitter on LSD.
Yeah.
National treasure.
Listen, I think some people were hitting the slopes in the dugout. But we can't just base everything off of that.
No, but I'm just
listen.
saying it's
I
a
think
hot topic.
I think from the aspect of athletes, that's a different conversation. I was under the impression the question was aimed at is gambling too involved with the general public,
and that was what the question was aimed
and
at.
I still think it is.
I think it's like a fine opinion. I just think to me, I think there's a lot of vices out there. Nicotine, vaping, alcohol, gambling. It's all promoted because it all makes money and it's all corrupt. I don't think gambling's in any different spot than the rest of them.
I think I'm in the middle opinion. I think it's fine with how much is out there. I think the moment that we find out that outcomes have been affected in any way, shape, or form to benefit, the league or the books.
But they haven't.
They haven't. That has not happened yet. But the moment that happens, I think it needs to be a hard shutdown. Like you have to claw.
That'll never come out, by the way.
No, they'll tooth and nail fight to keep that out of the public's eye. But I do think if that is ever out there that things were, manipulated in any sense, then it's got to be a hard,
I mean, I have my own personal theories on things. But
no, nothing that you want to share though.
I don't mind sharing it. I don't have any definitive insider information on it. I think when it comes to I think people are looking in the wrong direction, which is what these books love. What is rigged, I would say, by these books is one, like their casinos, because you just can't really prove it. And two, you get the random spread bets that are affected. Not who wins or who loses the game.
Right.
But do you guys, and a prime example of this that I feel, do you remember the Texans-Chiefs playoff game last year? The spread for it was like 7.5. And then all of a sudden at the end of the game, the Chiefs ran out the back of the end zone and took a 20-yard loss and a safety or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I just, things like that don't truly affect the outcome of the game.
Right.
But there was also a couple years ago.
I think a team went for a field goal randomly.
It was the Rams. They just kicked a field goal because the spread was 7.5. They were down like like a 10, and then they just kicked the field goal for like no reason.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely up there, and
I
that's
think like those would be the spots
Right.
where it's.
and that's in line with what I was kind of getting at. Is if that's ever proven to be true, I think that's a big issue.
I mean,
not that it
unless
affects
Pablo Torre gets on his journalism kick again, there's just not really anybody out there that's going to be looking into that. I don't think, because the leagues don't want it out and the books
Nope.
don't want it out.
because it negatively affects them both.
Yeah.
Because
But you be sure the second one player makes themselves $5,000. That comes out.
for throwing a ball where he struck out the batter still.
That'll be out.
All right, so moving on from that, and we'll keep monitoring that situation, and any new information we'll discuss, because I do find that really, really interesting, because this is, I would say, the closest thing we've gotten to a Black Sox scandal in a way. You know, this is worse than Pete Rose. This is guys legitimately throwing pitches. So I think that's something really cool to follow and see how the league reacts.